light.
John Stewart's hard light bird did not disappear. When Hal Jordan reclaimed the ring and the charge ran out, when John Stewart was knocked unconscious later in the episode, and by every rule of Green Lantern physics that construct should have dissolved into nothing, it was still there, still flying, still moving, completely independent of the ring, completely independent of the man who created it, sustained by something that the laws of this mythology say should not be able to sustain it. And Hal Jordan watched that happen, and you could see in his face the specific kind of fear that a very good person feels when they realize someone else might be better at the thing they have defined their entire existence around. Lanterns Episode 2 just delivered one of the most lore-dense hours of DC television ever made. We have the resolution of Hal Jordan's fate and the chain of command that explains where his ring actually went. We have the full, terrifying history of the Manhunters and the Sector 666 massacre, and why 6 people carrying an orange memory device ambushed John Stewart at a field. We have Hal in a prison cell on Oa getting psychologically dismantled by Sinestro, who has been waiting in that cell with nothing to do but figure out exactly how to get inside Hal's head. We have a Gotham City connection hiding in a hospital conversation, and we have a very specific diner scene with a woman named Zoe Macon that the comic readers in this fandom are already losing their minds over. Let's go through all of it. Start with the ending question everyone brought from Episode 1. Where did Hal's ring go? The answer is Guy Gardner, and the comic lore behind that choice is the detail that makes it feel inevitable rather than random. When Abin Sur crash-landed on Earth, and his ring began scanning Sector 2814 for a worthy successor, it identified 2 candidates of essentially equal willpower and integrity, Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner. The ring chose Hal because he was geographically closer to the crash site. That is the entire margin. One man is closer to the location on one particular day and becomes the most famous Green Lantern in history. The other becomes the backup, the designated successor if anything ever happens to the first choice. In the current DCU timeline, John Stewart was recruited to the Guardians directly and trained under Hal. That pathway bypassed the ring's chain of command. When Hal was compromised, the ring did not select John. It routed to the person the ring itself had designated as the next in line since Abin Sur crashed. Guy Gardner already has his own ring by 2026, already operating with the Justice Gang, already very much aware that he should have been the original choice. The collision between his bravado and John's methodical discipline now becomes the season's central character tension, layered on top of the cosmic mystery. That is not an accident. That is structure. The 2016 flashback sequences in Episode 2 are doing the most important character work in the entire episode. Hal, trying to teach John to fly the morning after the alien incident at the sheriff's station. Hal telling him it is instinctual, which for a test pilot, a man who spent his career making fast decisions with incomplete information at very high speed, it is. But John is not a test pilot. He is a military sniper and an architect. His entire professional identity is built around precision, measurement, structural integrity, and building things that hold up under load, rather than things that work well in the moment. The gap between those approaches to willpower is the gap between how their constructs work in luck and how long they survive. The flight lesson is where the episode's most emotionally loaded moment is hiding. Hal takes a deliberate step backward while watching John attempt it. That step is the thing. In the previous episode, Hal launched into the sky without a moment of hesitation. Here he is cautious in a way that is not about John potentially failing. It is about John potentially succeeding. Hal is recognizing in real time that the person he is training might have a more powerful willpower than he does. And for a man who has spent decades defining himself through the thing his willpower can do, that recognition is the specific shape fear takes when it finds something to attach itself to. John's construct is where the episode commits to something extraordinary. He does not create a basic light shape tethered to the ring's charge. He creates a fully realized autonomous hard light bird. And then later, after the ring's charge runs out, after John is physically incapacitated, the bird is still there, still flying. This violates a fundamental rule of Green Lantern physics. Constructs are tethered to the ring bearer's focus and the battery's charge. When either fails, the construct should fail. John's doesn't. In modern comic continuity, this is a rare documented ability, an intrinsic power to project and sustain hard light energy directly through willpower, rather than battery tethering. The bird is not a construct anymore in the technical sense. It is a manifestation of John Stewart's mind operating on a level of structural stability that the Corps has almost never encountered. Hal Jordan watched that bird not disappear, and he understood what it meant. Anton and the ambush connect the Rushville investigation to the deepest and darkest chapter of cosmic history this show has access to. Anton is played by Paul Ben-Victor, and his group consists of 6 people, a visual number that is not accidental for anyone who knows the source material. Atrocitus and the 5 inversions are the sole survivors of the Sector 666 massacre. 6 people, from a sector where every other living being was destroyed by the Manhunters before the Green Lantern Corps existed. The history Anton delivers is the show finally putting on screen the full context of what the Manhunters did and why it matters for everything happening in Rushville right now. Before the Guardians of Oa created the Corps and equipped sentient beings with willpower rings, they built an android army, cold, emotionless, designed to enforce cosmic order through perfect logical consistency. What they discovered is that perfect logical consistency applied to the elimination of crime eventually concludes that the most reliable method is the elimination of beings capable of committing crime. The Manhunters followed their programming to its logical endpoint. Their motto became absolute: no man escapes the Manhunters, and they enacted it across an entire sector of the galaxy. The Guardians shut them down and buried the history. Some of them have been hiding in human form on Earth since before anyone in Rushfield was born. The orange memory device Anton uses to force John through the Sector 666 experience is blending 2 colors from the emotional spectrum that should not be combined. Orange for greed and avarice, yellow for fear, red for rage. The Sector 666 survivors carry all of it. They are not simply angry at what happened to their home. They are consumed by it in a way that eventually produces Atrocitus and the Red Lanterns, being so soaked in rage that blood has replaced the light in their rings. Rushfield is not just a murder mystery. It is ground zero for a confrontation between the consequences of the Guardians' oldest mistake and the people they created to fix it. Abin Sur's crash landing gets recontextualized here in a way that changes everything about how the series began. He was not just passing through. He was almost certainly transporting a captured Manhunter or a Sector 666 survivor when something in the cargo broke containment and brought the ship down in a Nebraska field. The crash that gave Earth its first Green Lantern was caused by the same ancient problem that Hal and John are now investigating in Rushfield. Everything connects to the same buried history. Hal's house in Coast City is the episode's most quietly devastating character study. He has lived there for 8 years. The building contains a television, a folding chair, and wooden crates where furniture should be. He is a guest in his own life. The financial detail, not enough, when John asks about Lantern pay, is consistent with decades of comics portraying Hal Jordan as perpetually broke, relying on civilian work at Ferris Aircraft to get by while protecting his sector of the galaxy in his off hours. The Corps does not pay its members a salary. The power to reshape physical reality through willpower is the compensation. The photographs on the floor are the details that deserve specific attention. Hal with pop culture icons, Hal meeting Pope John Paul II. That second photo is the show placing Hal Jordan's first revelation of his alien-powered status in a specific historical moment, suggesting that when he came forward, he went to religious leaders specifically to reassure humanity that what he carried posed no threat to their faith. That is a version of Hal Jordan who understood that the ring was not just a weapon and a responsibility. It was a symbol that people needed to understand in terms that connected to what already mattered to them. The faded uniforms in his closet are the visual metaphor the episode closes this sequence on. The once vivid green has degraded into a dull brownish yellow, the uniform of a man whose commitment to the oath he recited this episode at high speed and low enthusiasm is not in the same place it was when he first put it on. The colors are draining. The specific direction they are draining toward, yellowish, is the show doing exactly what it did with the stadium in the previous episode. Hal Jordan's uniform is turning the color of fear. Oa, the Scion cells, Sinestro, Ulrich Thompson playing the greatest Green Lantern in history before he became its most significant failure. Hal goes to interrogate Sinestro about the rogue Manhunters. Sinestro ignores the question entirely and goes directly for the wound. He identifies Hal's fear of John Stewart's potential and begins pressing it before Hal has even fully settled into the conversation. This is what Sinestro has been doing in that cell. He has had nothing but time and a mind operating at the highest level of psychological manipulation available in the universe, and he has been waiting for someone to walk through the door so he can use it. Sinestro's history with Hal is the context that makes this confrontation unbearable to watch. He was Hal's mentor. He trained him. He was considered the Corps' greatest before anyone discovered he had been using his ring to rule his home planet of Corrigar through fear rather than protecting it through willpower. When Hal exposed him, the Guardians took the ring and imprisoned him. The brotherhood between them, real, genuine, formative for both men, is what Sinestro is now weaponizing. He knows exactly where Hal's self-worth lives, and he's putting pressure on it through a question. What happens to Hal Jordan if John Stewart is simply more than him? The green light of willpower requires the absence of fear. A Green Lantern who is afraid of being replaced is already moving toward the yellow spectrum whether they know it or not. Sinestro does not need to do anything else. He has planted the seed. The uniform in the closet is already changing color. The Gotham reveal is the episode's most casual and most significant piece of world building. Hal in the hospital, asking Carrie where she came from. Carrie saying Gotham, and then every detail from episode 1 clicking into place. The phone call overheard, where she said, "Tell Barb I said hey." That is Barbara Gordon. The person she was talking to was Commissioner Jim Gordon. Sheriff Carrie Kane is a former GCPD officer who transferred to Rushfield after years working under Gordon in one of the most dangerous police departments in the country. And her surname, Kane, carries the specific weight that surname carries in Batman mythology. Martha Kane was Bruce Wayne's mother. Kate Kane is Batwoman. The Kane family is Gotham royalty, foundational to the city's history. Whether this Carrie is directly part of that lineage, or whether the name is a deliberate tribute to the creators who built that mythology, the DCU is systematically establishing that every part of this universe exists in the same continuous world. Zoe Macon in the diner is the episode's quietest and most layered scene. John questioning her about her husband's behavior. Zoe observing that white men have the privilege of being eccentric, a line that lands with the full weight of John Stewart's comic history behind it. He was created in 1971 as DC's first major black superhero. His debut issue was titled Beware My Power. Decades of stories have placed him in situations where his competence is questioned and his existence is challenged in ways that his white colleagues never face. Zoe's observation is the show honoring that history while grounding it in a contemporary voice that sounds like real life rather than a lecture. The Star Sapphire theory around Zoe is the one generating the most speculation in the fan community. The Star Sapphires tap into the violet light of love on the emotional spectrum. In the comics, the character Iris Senreal's backstory is woven through John Stewart's arc around themes of devastating mistakes, accountability, and the specific kind of forgiveness that only comes from genuine reckoning with what you did and what it cost. Zoe's philosophical observations about love and endurance throughout episode 2 are speaking in exactly that register. Another Lantern Corps may be operating in Rushfield in plain sight, wearing the face of a woman whose husband has been behaving in ways that have brought 2 space detectives to her door. What Lanterns is building across these 2 episodes is something that prestige television rarely attempts with superhero material. A show that treats its genre mythology as genuinely serious without ever losing sight of the human beings inside it. Hal Jordan's faded uniform, John Stewart's bird that refused to disappear, the Guardian's buried crime, Sinestro in his cell with nothing but time, a Gotham cop who said "Tell Barb I said hey," and whatever Zoe Macon is that she has not told anyone yet. The cosmic war is coming, but right now it is wearing the face of a small-town Nebraska murder. And that is exactly the right way to make it feel real before it becomes enormous. So here's what I need from you. John's construct that survived without the ring, does that feel like the show's most significant reveal about his power set? Or is there something else from episode 2 that hit harder for you? And Zoe Macon as a potential star Sapphire, are you buying it? Or is the show doing something else with her that we have not figured out yet? Drop everything in the comments because this show is moving fast, and I want to be pulling threads with you every step of the way.